like this that just make me think on James Henry. Oh, he was the hardest working man I ever did know. James Henry said he was going to buy 58 acres from Master Thomas. Of course, Master Thomas still treat James Henry as if he a piece of property. But I want you to know he ain't nobody's property. You see, James Henry, he be Master Thomas's, he be Master Thomas's, excuse me, ma'am. And I see you staring me right hard in my face. I want to thank you for bringing it to my attention that I've been right rude. I ain't properly introduced myself to you folks. Thank you, ma'am. I'd like to tell you that my name is Jenny Joseph. And I want y'all to know that I mix up that name myself. You see, I met a lady one day. Her name is Mary Edgar. Oh, I mean, that be her Christian name. I say, now, that's the prettiest name I ever did hear in all my born days. So I say, when freedom happens to me, I was going to make the name just as pretty as Mary Edgar. So I gets to thinking real hard, and I thinks about mother. She don't be my real mother. She be my great-grandmother. Her name be Virginia. And then I start thinking about my grandfather. Oh, his name be Joseph. That's how I come up with the name Jenny Joseph. Excuse me, sons, you got a last name?
Yes, ma'am.
What is it?
Warner.
Warner. That's a nice sounding name of choice. You got a last name too, sir?
Fenster.
What is it?
Fenster.
Oh, I was right proud of that name, ain't you, Mr. Fenster? You ought to be. That's a nice sounding name, it is. But the reason I asked you, gentlemen, if y'all got last names, see, I ain't got no last name yet. I think it's got to be kind of puffer. Kind of like y'all's last names. Well, you see, what a lot of free folks do is they take their master's last name, but I didn't have the two masters, Master Thomas and Master Charles, and well, Master Charles, he be the one that sell me away from my little girl, so I reckon I wouldn't want to have his last name. And Master Thomas, well, look, folks, I just tell you, I ain't got no use for no slave names no more. You still staring at me, ma'am. We was just talking about James Henry, was we not? Well, I can tell you, James Henry was a hard-working man. He could just do about anything. Why, he could butcher a hog, and he could pick cotton faster than anybody I know. And, well, James Henry, he be a man about your size, sir. But he had really large arms. But, sir, I want you to know that James Henry, he could make the lightest biscuits you ever want to put in your mouth. But you, sir, you like chicken stew? I like some chicken. I tell you, when James Henry makes that chicken stew and them biscuits, woo, y'all, that sure be some good eating. But the thing I like most about James Henry is James Henry, he be a good storyteller. And he tell a story about a town, and he say it be what you call a experiment in freedom. Now, you good folks, you know that there's a fortress, Monroe, here in Virginia. Well, James Henry said that he remembers back in late October of '61 that there'd be 60 Union ships with 20,000 men on it. Ain't that a lot of men to be putting on 60 ships? Oh, finish your food note. Well, look, instead of me telling the story in my words, why don't I just tell the story in the young boys? Now, Master had 9 children. 6 of them boys belonged to the Rebel Army. And I remember this day as if it was yesterday because it was in early November back in '61. It was day all them shots were fired. But see, I thought it was thunder rolling. I looked up at the sky, tell you, sky wasn't nothing like today because there wasn't a cloud in the sky. My mama said, boy, that ain't no thunder rolling. That's some Yankees come to give you freedom. I tell you all, I just got so happy. I just jumps up in the air, and I go running for my pa. Now, see, my pa, he was out there splitting rail. I was getting ready to tell him all the excitement about everything that's going on when all of a sudden here come Massa. Massa coming in a carriage, coming from Buford. Coming down the road just like that, and all of a sudden he started yelling for his driver. And he said, "You get me my boat tariff fee, and we's gonna roll down to Charleston." Well, my pa, he run back in the house to tell my ma everything that Massa say, and my ma say, "With them Yankees here, you ain't gonna be rolling down to Charleston. You going right out that back door." Ma'am, you know what my pa did? Went out that back door like he was going. Now, on this particular day, there were 3,000 shots fired. Ain't that a lot of shots to be fired in one day? 3,000 shots fired, and I tell you, them rebel boys retreated and left the forts for all them Yankees. Now, 2 days later, after all this excitement was going on, them Sea Island slaves, they escaped off the plantations because they knew that them Lincoln soldiers, well, that's what we called them, ma'am. Lincoln soldiers was there to give them their freedom. But I want you to know that them northern boys ain't treat them slaves any different than the southerners. Why, some of them even steal it from the slaves. You see, them northern officers looked at the slaves as what you call a contraband of war. And they felt like them Negroes, well, they was a nuisance and bothersome. Remember I was telling you about them 20,000 men? Well, one of them, he be a general. And this general, he rides away to this place in Washington, D.C. called the War Department. And he be riding away for what you call a humanitarian assistance. Now, you good folks know assistant coming the way of missionaries. And these missionaries, they be called Gideonites or Gideon's band. You know, like Gideon from the Bible, and they be helping the blacks and they be teaching the blacks. But I reckon now it be about April of '62, and there come a military order saying all these contrabands of war is free. And 4 months later, from President Lincoln himself, come a piece of paper emancipating all these Sea Island slaves. Now, these folks, they's living on the forts, but they's living in camps. Now, I tell you, I ain't seen much like freedom to them because, well, they's living behind the stockades. It kind of seemed like they's living in a sty. But now there come this new general. New general, his name be Mitchell. He looks at the way the folks is living. He say, "Now, what kind of way is this for you to treat folks? Is this what you call freedom?" So what he does is he finds some property by the Drayton plantation, and they builds a Negro village. Ma'am, you know what the village be called? It be called Mitchellville, ma'am. They be naming it after the general. In this village of Mitchellville, ma'am, these Negroes is building their own houses. They's building their own houses. They's running their own government, and I want y'all to know they got to store. They got to store with just anything you could possibly ever want or imagine. Why, they got dried peaches and condensed milk and 10 pie plates and just anything you could want. Excuse me, honey. Your hair sure is pretty. Do you do your hair yourself?
No, ma'am.
Whoever does your hair, they do a nice job on your hair, ma'am.
Thank you.
In this store I was telling you about, ma'am, these Negroes, they got lots of pretty things. Lots of pretty things like hair combs and all kinds of things to put in your hair and make it pretty. Pretty like your hair is. Well, like I said, anything you could want. They got flour and grits and pants and suspenders. And of course, all the little children get schooling. Well, they's being taught by more missionaries. But these missionaries, they gets their money from them Presbyterians, from them Methodists, and excuse me, ma'am. You know them Baptists had something to do with it, don't you, ma'am? Yes, ma'am, them Baptists. These folks is real religious, and they builds them 2 Baptist churches because they builds them a Methodist church too. Now, remember I was telling you these folks was all slaves to begin with? They was hard-working folks, but the ones that's living on the forts, and they's living on the forts, but they saving up their money. But I want you to know that, well, the war getting ready to end now, and them Navy boys, they takes their jobs with them. But like I said, it don't make no difference to these folks because they were slaves to begin with. And they's goes back to the plantation. Now, they's working for a fee. Now, when I says they're saving up their money, what they's doing is they's forming something called a collective. A collective be like, so you take your money and so you take your money and you collects it all together, then you purchase the land that you've been working on. And so maybe you take your money and so you take your money. Maybe y'all ain't got quite enough money to purchase the land, but what you do is you rent the land. That still be called a collective. But now, back up there in Washington, D.C., there comes some talk saying that the white gentlemen that used to own a land, well, they should be able to get their land back if they pay their taxes, if they pay a cost or any interest that has incurred on the land. And the Negroes that buys that land, and so I want you to know that the Negroes, they buys that land in good faith from the government. So the land is taken from the Negroes, and the Negroes, so they ain't getting nothing for it. Well, James Henry knows lots of stories about free black folks, but that one be my favorite cause. Well, look, I want one of them people that got them Sea Island slaves that got their freedom, but I sure remember being on Colton County plantation and hearing how them rebel boys retreated and left the forts for all them Yankees. And I reckons I like that story too, because I say that one day when freedom happens to me, that I'll be able to go live in a town like Mitchellville and go to a store and buy some purdy things for my hair too. Because I's free now. But I don't live in a town like Mitchellville. Well, look, James Henry say that he just gonna go to James Henry say that we ain't no longer a people of personal servitude, so we ain't to call nobody master anymore except the Lord Jesus Christ. So you folks, y'all just pardon me. I just ain't gonna call him master anymore. I think I just call him Mr. James Henry, he go to Mr. Thomas. He said, now, I ain't gonna be slaving for you anymore, but what I will do is I'll do the work I was doing for you, but you pay me a fee. Well, so of course he goes to all the other misters and say, now that you done lost all your free folks, I do the work that they was doing for you, but you pay me a fee. And so James Henry, he got himself his own business now. Well, he said he gonna be fair to Mr. Thomas. He said, now I'm gonna pay you for my lodging and I'm gonna pay you for a small parcel of land to grow some food on. Well, you see, ma'am, I ain't want no lodging. And I ain't want no land to grow no food on, because see, all I could think on these last years is my little girl. And now that I'm free, I got to follow my heart to see if I can go find her. Well, look, I ain't gonna lie to you good folks. I was gonna miss James Henry. But like I said, I got to follow my heart. So I just finds a dress, and I puts it in my basket, and I starts on my journey, and I knew my journey gonna take a long time to get back to the town I was born in. See, ma'am, the town I was born in, my little girl Mary, she born. Same plantation I was born in. And I finally gets back to the town, and I goes around to all the good folks in town, and I ask them all, do any of you know if my Mary, she's still on the plantation? Ma'am, I need to tell you. They tell me my Mary's still there. I can't tell you what it does to my heart. So I just takes my basket and I starts down the road to the plantation. And I looks far off in the distance, because that's where the big house is. And I pulls up everything the good Lord has in me. And I pulls it up a strip. And then I walks down that road. And I finally gets to the big house, and I walks up them stairs, and I goes around to the front door, and I knocks on the front door. Now, I was shaking, but I wasn't scared. But this young girl, she come to the door, and she stared me right long in the face, and I say, is my Mary here? Well, she still staring me right long in the face, but then all of a sudden she tells me to go around the side of the house to where the kitchen is. Now, I was walking. Sure felt like it. And it goes around the side of the house, and I goes in the kitchen. But there ain't nobody in there. But all of a sudden I hears a noise behind me, and I turns and I sees that it's my Mary. And all I can do is just run and go and take her up in my arms. And I need you folks to know how good she feels in my arms. And I certainly want you to know how good she smells to me. And all I can do is just thank the good Lord. Thank the good Lord for keeping her safe all these years. When all of a sudden I hear somebody yelling, and I looks down because I feel somebody pushing me away, and it's my Mary. And she be yelling. She be yelling so loud, she say, "Get away from me! I don't know who you is." She be yelling so loud that she calls that woman to come out the house. You see, it be that woman, Mr. Charles, that had Mr. Charles come down to the quarters that night and take my little 4-year-old Mary out my arms. You see, she gave birth to 2 babies that night and needed some help. I know. I know some of you ladies. Any of you ladies. Any of you ladies out here, mamas. You was a mama, man. then maybe you could tell me, what can a 4-year-old do to help a woman to give birth to 2 babies? That's how I feel now. And I reckon that's why they sells me on. Well, that woman, she come out the house, and she followed by what I reckon must be one of them twins. But then all of a sudden, she starts yelling at me, and she say, "Get off my property." My little girl Mary, she runs away from me, and she runs back up them stairs, and she goes and she stands behind that woman, and they both just yelling at me. And I tell you, I just didn't know what I was going to do. But all of a sudden, I feels myself walking back up them stairs, and I goes and I looks her straight in her face, and I say, I ain't going nowhere without my Mary. And ma'am, I ain't ashamed. I ain't ashamed to tell you that I gets down on my knees in front of my Mary, and I say, please, I am your mama. Please, don't do this to me. And I says to that woman, please, this is my little girl. This is my little girl that you took from my arms. And they both just yelling at me, and I tell you, I don't know when and I don't know how, but all of a sudden I feel somebody helping me up. And then I realized I was back down at the bottom of the road. Now, it be the good Lord that give her to me. I didn't give her up the first time. So I ain't getting her up this time neither.